Here's what I'm starting with. Our brain is, the activities are run by two different parts of our brain, the automatic and the executive part. The automatic part of our brain regulates like 80 to 90% of our activities, and about 10 to 20% is our executive function, which is the part that requires constant checking in with yourself. What are we doing? Why am I going here? And that's the part that's a little janky in the ADHD brain. The system of executive functioning can be exhausting. It requires frequent mental pauses and ceaseless self-regulation. And that's why it's exhausting. Dr. Russell Barkley, to listen to, a great professor of ADHD, and he likens our executive functioning like a GPS. GPS has to be listening to all the different cues, and ours is kind of, I'm gonna call it like sort of spotty service. Okay. Our working memory, which is just the short term, like the things that we have to hold in our brain. Well, there's this thing at 5 o'clock tonight, and I also need to do this thing. Right now I'm gonna do this thing. Like the activities have to be sort of all orchestrated. And that is what we have a hard time with. It's a complex part. It involves like 7 distinct brain activities. So there's no wonder we're exhausted, because ours doesn't work well. So we're like mentally exhausted because we're trying to juggle all the thoughts in there, like keep them all in there, keep them right here. And what it will do is throw out some randomly. 4 slots. Let's see, the average brain can remember 4 things, and we get like 2 or 3. And the teacher's asking a question, and then she says, is it this or this or this? The ADHD brain, that child, probably only has 3 slots, maybe 2. So maybe they're remembering what the question was and one of the possible answers. The other 2 are just gone. So it makes me say the same thing, where I just have to juggle them, like hold on to them. But we literally can't hold on to all of them in our brains. We can't. That's part of ADHD. ADHD is not an attention problem, like we can't pay attention to things. It's an attention regulating problem. It's regulating our emotions, regulating our attention. We can't not pay attention to something or a thought in our head when we need to be just focusing on this. We're like, but there's a story. Dr. Russell Barkley, again, I think I mentioned him already. He calls it externalizing. And I always say we got to have external cues. And that is the way that we can managing it. If you can write it down, or whatever thing you use to get it out here, tell somebody to remind you, the more we can externalize things that we have to remember, and tasks and activities, the easier it is for our working memory, our executive function, because we don't have to keep it in our head and think, what's it going to throw out? I'm just reading this article from Attitude, Attitude. Like a GPS, our brain begins any new task by referring to its maps. It determines the relevance of the new information as it comes in, and it alters the plan. Like, should we go slower or faster, do this thing first, that thing first? But to an already overwhelmed brain, all of this working memory can be a lot to process. So he suggests externalizing. That gets the information out of the brain, making it a physical thing. And then it taxes your brain less, and then we're less mentally exhausted. Strategies for strengthening your working memory and externalizing information so that your brain can effectively plan and coordinate tasks without expending all the exhausting effort. He says digital isn't always the best solution. How many of you ladies prefer in some things writing it down? My husband's like, we'll put it in the calendar on the Google. I'm like, no, I have a calendar. I want to write it down. I want to see it. I want to be able to touch it. Begin by simply writing things down with pen and paper. Sometimes it's misguided for people with ADHD to use all digital things, because you could lose them. They can run out of battery. Notebook as the external storage device for your working memory. Our brain thinks with images. Our brain doesn't think with like words that we have to read in our heads. It gives us an image or a picture or a video playing of something happening. So if we can do a picture of the task or the thing, that's easier to remember. Sticky notes are great. To simplify your workspace. I'm trying. It's hard. It helps control our impulsivity, distractibility. And that can keep fewer things out of our limited little slots in there. The more things we have around us while we're trying to focus on something else, the easier it might be for that to pop in there and go, oh, you know what? I was going to get this green paint. I was going to put it over in the thing. Thank you for being here, ladies, and I hope that it helped a little bit. I just want you to know what's going on and why it's going on, because just knowing it, even if we can't do anything about it, which we can, it helps our mental, what we're telling ourselves in our head. Not like, I'm crazy, or I must be stupid, or whatever. You can say, wow, my working memory is not great. It's not dependable. That's just the way my brain is. So I need to do as much externalizing as I can. You can comment anytime. I look over here like I'm looking at something, and I actually don't have anything there. You look this way. I never condone, like, I feel like a loved one should be loving, period. I mean, they're human, but someone who says ugly stuff is like, hey, get out of here. I don't need to let you talk to me if you're not for me. I'll do anything and give any amount of time to people who are for me, and I'm for them. But if they're not for me, you know what I mean? Just on your side, just want you to be happy. I don't have time. I'm just like, bye. I'm not going to listen to it. Thank you, ladies, for being here. That's all I got, I think. I'll talk to you later.